Hey everyone, before we get into the episode today, we wanted to let you know about a very special opportunity.
That's right. We are hiring here at the Command Zone. If you love Magic, if you love Commander, if you've ever dreamed of taking your love of those things and turning them into a career, this is your chance. We are currently hiring for the position of Junior Video Editor, which is a entry-level position. It requires no experience. It only requires that you're a fast learner, a hard worker, and you love Magic and Commander. If that's you, we would love for you to apply. Go down in the show notes. There will be a job posting there. Just click, upload your cover letter and your resume. One thing I want to say is that you will be, it's not a remote position. You have to be able to come into the office here in Los Angeles, but that doesn't mean you have to live here now. If you get the job, you just have to be willing to relocate.
Yeah, working at the Command Zone has been one of my great joys in life. Everyone here is fantastic, and it's really just an incredible opportunity. Again, entry-level position. Don't feel intimidated. If you think this is something you can qualify for, go ahead, check out that link, submit your stuff, and let us know why you should be working here.
Yeah, you don't have to have any experience at all. So just go ahead and apply if you think that it sounds fun to work here and that you love the Command Zone.
All right, have fun, everyone. Can't wait to see those cover letters.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
What's up, everybody? You are watching / listening to the Command Zone podcast. I'm one of your hosts today, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
It's time to do some more budget Precon upgrade guides. These are actually some of my favorite videos to do, Josh.
Yeah, some of our most popular, especially with new players. If you've picked up or are picking up any of the Precon Commander decks from Dominaria United, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to take this Legends Legacy, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Legends Legacy deck and give you some advice on how to quickly tune it up by adding only 10 cards, removing 10 cards for $30 or less, and that will get you up to speed and able to, do battle with quote-unquote real decks ASAP.
Yeah, and look, these upgrade guides are super helpful because the Precons are in great shape these days, and we're always so excited to play with them, and I'm sure you are too. And if you want to pick up one of these Precons for yourself, well, head on over to channelfireball.com/command. They have a marketplace there that is the best place to buy sealed product online because you're shopping from local game stores around the country. That means they are a part of the Wizards Play Network. They have access to those distributor channels, and they're going to get you great rates both on the sealed product and the singles you're going to need to upgrade this deck or any of the decks that you have in your collection. So just add promo code command at checkout or go to channelfireball.com/command to check out their store and just begin shopping, perusing their wares and see what interests you.
Yeah, all that Dominaria United stuff is available right now for pre-order. You want the Commander Precons, the draft boosters, the set boosters, the collector boosters.
Oh yeah.
channelfireball.com/command. And then once you get those cards, you want to protect them. And ULTRAPRO is the game accessories company that Jimmy and I trust our own collections to. You really want to keep all of your game pieces, your cards in pristine condition. ULTRAPRO makes the best products to protect all of your game pieces. They have great sleeves, deck boxes, play mats. They also have other things not only to protect your cards, but things like dice. The Eclipse dice, I really, really like. We love them for gameplay because they're very clear.
Yeah.
They have wall scrolls that can adorn your game room. ULTRAPRO has all kinds of stuff. If you go to shop.ultrapro.com/command, they also now have an online store. You can buy from them directly. This is fairly new, and one of the great things is they have a lot of discounts on that website.
Yeah, discounts are great, especially for budget-friendly Magic players. And we're doing a budget Precon upgrade guide, so why not get us deal?
You might as well get budget sleeves and a budget deck box while you're
exactly.
at it. Yeah,
and brag to everyone how you just beat them with your $60-ish deck, right?
Yep. And then, of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/commandzone. All kinds of perks for our patrons. We got a Discord we hang out in all the time. Jimmy and I are always chatting, answering questions from the patrons. You get access to game nights and extra turns earlier than the general public and ad-free versions of both of those shows so that you get to watch them before anybody else. We have all kinds of other perks on there. We play spell table games with our patrons as well.
At certain tiers. And I'm actually going to play them later today. So don't miss out on your opportunity to jam games of Magic in with Josh and myself if you can't make it to a convention or something. This is the perfect way to do that. Check out all the info at patreon.com/commandzone. And we shout out one lucky patron every episode. So this episode is dedicated to Sean Brown.
Sean, you rock. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get into it, Jimmy. The Legends Legacy Precon Budget Upgrade Guide. Same as always, we're going to add 10 cards. We're going to remove 10 cards. for $30 or less. You were the driver on this episode, Jimmy, working hard last night coming up with the list.
This was a fairly easy one to do. I've actually built Legends Matter as decks in the past.
Right.
If you remember, I had the that one Abzan one way back in the day that I Mindslavered you a bunch of times. We're also going to leave the mana base as is because that's not as interesting to upgrade.
I was like trying to remember, and I was like, wait, no, I don't want to remember that.
Yeah, it was Kethis. That's it. Kethis, the hidden hand.
No, I don't want to think about it.
But we're in different colors today. We are in Mardu. That's red, white, and black. So let's at first talk about the two new commanders that can be the lead singer of this deck. The first up is the one in front of the box. It is Dijada, Binder of Wills.
And real quick, before you say what it does, I want to spoil the fact that on the next episode of Game Nights for Dominaria United, one of the players is playing Dijada. It's Rachel Weeks.
Woohoo!
I guess I can spoil the player as well.
Rachel's a great deck brewer, and the deck that she built is really awesome.
Yeah, she built a deck from scratch, so she didn't use the Precon as a base like we're doing here. So it's going to be obviously different. But anyway, she's playing Dijada. All right, what's Dijada do, Jimmy?
All right, Dijada is pretty hot. A lot of spiciness here. 1 red, white, and a black for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. 3 abilities, +2. Up to 1 target legendary creature gains Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible until your next turn. -3, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put any number of legendary cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Create a treasure token for each card put into your graveyard this way. And -11, gain control of all non-land permanents until end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste until end of turn. And of course, the text, Dijada, Binder of Wills, can be your commander. Okay, there's a lot of text here.
Let's start with the ultimate because it's not worth talking about for very long, just since ultimates rarely happen, but it is extraordinarily powerful. It's an insurrection, but for all non-land permanents.
Yeah, so you should win the game on the spot if you ever get here. Dijada starts at 5. She needs to +2, 7, 9, 11, and then ultimate, so it's going to be hard. But non-land permanents, you're going to get mana rocks, and they're going to get untapped. So you'll not only be able to cast stuff out of your hand after you steal everything, but you're going to be able to attack with it too.
You should win because your Dijada has gotten to 11 loyalty and nobody's been able to attack it. So you're probably in a pretty good spot.
But what if they have nothing on the board? You know, then you're stealing.
That's true, but then you're still going to win, right? Because they have nothing on the board and you have Planeswalker at ultimate.
Yep.
The plus ability, one thing, having played against a Dijada deck a few times now, it wasn't clear to me when I read the card the first time that it was until your next turn. So giving Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible is pretty big game.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you give one of your creatures that, you attack with it, you gain the life, they can't block or they can block, it doesn't matter. And then you're sitting there with this blocker that's got Lifelink and Indestructible because it had Vigilance.
Yeah.
So it really does protect Dijada pretty well. If you do that on a flyer, it's like, okay, well, how do I get through that? Because it's got Indestructible. And rarely do you have 2 creatures flying that can get around an Indestructible threat.
Not just that, she goes up to 7.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good protection.
Yeah, you got to get through with something big.
Yeah. Even if it's not big, you have to send multiple things at Dijada. And again, she's coming out turn 4, presumably at the latest. So you have 3 turns of it playing. Has to be a legendary creature, but obviously the whole deck is going to be filled with those.
Yeah, if you build the deck, all your creatures are legendary, or 90% of them probably are, just so that, you have the best chance for her first 2 abilities. And the second ability, again, I think not clear to me when I read it the first time.
This is actually very powerful, I think.
Yeah, and the fact that you don't have to take the legendary stuff and put it into your hand. It says put any number. So if you want the mana, you can just choose to put the legendary cards, even that you find there, into the graveyard to make the treasures instead.
Yeah, so -3, make 4 treasures. Dijada pays for herself the turn it comes out, should you want to. But even -3, take 1 legendary card. By the way, it can be a legendary land, a legendary sorcery instant, all the cards that say legendary as a subtype, and then you're getting 3 treasures. So you can still probably cast something else that turn, like a blocker.
It can be 4 mana for a 2 loyalty planeswalker, draw you a card, and give you 3 mana back as treasure.
Yeah, not even have to use it this
That's
turn.
an incredible card on its own, right?
Yeah, just by itself. That feels like Jessica's Will almost.
So the card is very powerful.
Yeah, it's very, very good, I think. There's a lot of, obviously, play to it. You're in Mardu, so you have some restrictions, but legendary creatures, legendary permanents, there's a lot out there.
I think in any color these days, if you wanted to make a legendary deck, you can do it. There's enough legendary stuff now.
Yeah, especially in a set like Dominaria, which is going to have a bunch of new stuff as well. And just in the past, we've been to a couple other planes that added a bunch of legendary cards.
And they're just concentrating on Commander so much these days that there's just so many legendary creatures created in the last 3 or 4 years that every color's got a ton of them.
Yeah, so Dijada is great. +2 makes a great blocker. -3 gets you mana back and draws you cards. And -11 is win the game.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay, but let's see what the backup quote-unquote backup legendary creature or commander in the deck is, just so we can at least consider. I think sometimes out of the box there are decks where you want to run the secondary commander.
Totally.
This one seems unlikely, but let's read it. It's Shanid, Sleeper Scourge. Same casting cost, 1 generic plus red, white, and black. So 4 mana total for a 2/4 human knight with Menace. Menace. It says other legendary creatures you control have Menace.
Nice.
This is Menace Legendary Tribal.
Say that 10 times fast.
Legendachi Menace.
Playing bocce ball. All right, here we go.
And as a second ability, whenever you play a legendary land or cast a legendary spell, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Wow, it's Tatiova for legendaries, kind of.
Yeah, and it's more than, you could play a legendary land, tap that to play a legendary spell, and then draw 2 cards, basically.
This is quite powerful.
Yeah, I think you should at least be drawing 1 card a turn the moment this commander lands.
Yeah, you should play it and then play a legendary land, right?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
I think you're casting legendary spells all throughout the deck. Those legendary creatures have menace, so you are refilling your hand and going quickly with this. Dijada also does that notably and gives you mana back while doing so, but it is a minus ability, so it's not something that can just keep going over and over again.
I think we're going to look at the stats of the deck and we'll determine, but it's not 100% that Dijada is just better. Shanid is, I think, possible to be better, especially if it was a deck built from scratch.
Yeah, totally.
Because we know like the Tatiova type decks of the world are very powerful, and I think in a deck built from scratch, you would have almost everything in the deck be legendary, in which case the value of this card is very high.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's continue. Speaking of the stats. Ooh, that was an angry stats.
Yeah, I'm
not because the stats are bad, because they're quite good.
Yeah, they're always good, actually. The precons have been great in the past couple of years. It looks like WotC has been watching Command Zone videos. Not just kidding.
I'm a little surprised by one of the stat lines here, and we'll see if you can guess which one. But let's go ahead and read them.
All right, so in terms of a ramp, we have 12 cards in the deck that ramp. That includes the commander, by the way. Yep. There are 11 sources of card draw, which is great. By the way, we're in Mardu. Typically, you don't see a lot of card draw in red and white.
And your commander Dijada ramps you and draws you cards. So
yeah, it's kind of
you
nice.
always have those 2 things. Yep.
Single target removal, 5 sources of that.
That's the one I'm surprised by. That seems quite low, especially we're in the removal colors.
Yeah, you have some of the best removal spells in the game. Yeah.
So that seems low. I would want more for sure.
And then board wipes, just 2 of them.
Which, again, seems a little bit weird because if Dijada is your Planeswalker commander...
Yeah, you want to kill everything else because it's a Planeswalker, not a creature, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, when it comes to card types that are specific to the deck, how many legendary cards do you think are in this deck?
Well, I know because it's on the paper here. It's 46.
And now you know because it's on the video and we just told you.
Quite high, but it feels a little low for a deck like this. I feel like, with lands and other things, it could definitely be higher. So... That's a number I would want to get higher in general, I think.
Legendary payoffs. So payoffs for playing legendary cards. There are 20 of them.
Wow.
That's a
lot.
It seems, it's a lot. Now, the whole deck, again, is revolving around this idea.
But if there's only 46 legendary cards, 20 payoffs seems too high. I think I would want it more like 55 and, 10 or 12
Yeah,
payoffs.
my guess is that in order to keep the deck sort of without, spiraling into look at the value, a lot of the lands are probably going to be pretty basic.
Yeah, that's a good point. Legendary lands tend to be a little more expensive.
Because you can definitely get that number up 10, 12 more.
Just from lands,
Just
right?
from lands, yeah 100%. And then graveyard cards, because Dijada is putting cards into the graveyard, there are 9 cards that care about that. And then as far as attack and damage goes, which is sort of like the menace part of Shannon, there are 12 cards about that. But that doesn't necessarily synergize with Shannon. Keep in mind, it just is that Shannon gives other creatures menace, so maybe they are better at attacking as a result.
Like an attack trigger might be a little better because you can pull off more attacks. Okay.
Yeah.
So who should we run, based on these stats, Jimmy, who are you designing the deck around? I think we already know, but...
Yeah, I'm going to design around Dijada. Not only is Dijada just got so many important abilities, I think she's just a little more flexible than Shannon. Now, Shannon, you would love to draw Shannon off Dijada's ability or just play it at any point, but Dijada is going to be able to give you a Vigilance, Lifelink, Indestructible blocker. I think that's actually really important because Lifelink is pretty important. Especially if you're a deck that's trying to attack, you're going to need to also stay on top of things and having good blocks for Dijada, plus the minus ability. Sometimes you just make 4 treasures. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minus ability is really the thing here because if you need cards, you'll get cards.
Yeah.
And if you need mana, you can choose. And it's not even a must ability. It's a may ability, or it's put any number, which is the same. So... yeah, I think Dijada's flexibility, especially with 46 legendary things in the deck, Shannon is going to be a little less. Like if that number was 80, then maybe you think about Shannon, but it's not.
Yeah, and I think the other just also is more clear to a player what you're trying to do. Trying to make creatures, put them out there, and you're trying to make treasures and just keep going, get this engine going. And the way I also added some cards in, care more about the graveyard as well, because that's just another synergy that helps out overall.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, which is value.
Value. Should be there be an echo for value, like with a ding-a-ding-a-ling.
It's like a twinkle for value.
Yeah, instead of
it should be cha-ching.
Yeah,
like a cat.
Dum. Yeah.
Okay, let's not get it. All right, so as always, caveat here, the prices we are about to discuss in context are taken from prior to the deck being revealed, because we're recording this episode before the deck is revealed. And also we want to compare it to all the deck reveal videos and everything we've done in the past, which are always taken, those numbers are always taken from before the deck's revealed, because again, we don't know the numbers at the point we're recording this. So
and we're not taking into account the new cards. We have no idea what Dijada, Shannon, or any of the new cards are going to be worth because they haven't existed yet.
Yep.
So we're only talking about the reprints, and when we were compared them to other precons, we're compared to reprints as well.
Yeah, and there are, once again, 10 new cards in this deck, so we're talking about 90 reprints, but some of them are basic lands.
A lot of them are lands,
yeah. There's 74 actual reprints in this deck that are not basic lands. All right, without further ado, the total reprint value of this deck is quite high, $110.11.
All right, and I think I have a theory as to why the legendary subtype typically means cards of that type cost just a little bit more.
Yeah, because in the past, you basically had to be rare or above to even be legendary for most things.
Yeah.
Lately, they have some uncommons and things in Dominaria, but that wasn't generally true up until, a few years ago.
Yeah. And legendary cards tend to be a little bit more powerful because they're legendary, they're a little flashier. So that makes a lot of sense. If we look at the average reprint value of precons of past, it's about, I would say on the top tier, like top 5% of precons probably.
Yeah, and we're going to put a list up there. It's like Strixhaven was like $88. That's the average of all the decks averaged out.
Yeah.
More recently, Neon Dynasty was only $73, and one of those decks was like $55 or something. Yeah. Baldur's Gate was $104. That's the average. So we're above that with this $110 price tag. So this is, definitely for sure, like in the top 20%, if not higher. As far as averages, there might have been individual decks that were a little bit higher than this.
Well, let's talk about the Nullable Reprints then, because that's what's making this price get up.
Yep.
There are 5 cards that are $5 or more, and then 17 cards that are $2 or more.
There's one card that's over $20. We rarely see that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting because it just has not been printed in quite a while, but it's very good for the deck.
Okay, well, that card is going to lead us off. It's Shizuo, Death's Storehouse, $21 before the reprint was announced. I love this card. I played in a couple of decks. It's really good in Greven.
It's very good in this format called Commander.
Yeah, just really good. If you play Rogue's Passage, if you're in black, you should look at Shizuo now because hopefully the price will come down.
Get rid of that Rogue's Passage.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever activated that card. Maybe once in my lifetime.
And then somebody removed the creature and you're like, dang it, 5 mana down the drain.
They saw it coming from a mile away.
All right, Shizuo, Death's Storehouse is a legendary land. You can tap it to add black to your mana pool, or you can pay a black and tap Shizuo, and target legendary creature gains fear until end of turn. And fear means that the creature can only be blocked by artifact or black creatures. This is the early form of Intimidate.
Yeah, very hard to block, especially if you got a commander. Obviously, it's great in this deck. Dijada's going to be bringing you all sorts of crazy legendary creatures, and making them unblockable for any number of reasons is great. It's kind of what Shannon's trying to do with Menace. So Shizuo is... Again, you could just take this card and put it in pretty much any commander deck that has black and be happy with it.
And it's legendary, so it
you can draw it
synergizes with everything Dijada's doing and Shannon and a bunch of other things in the deck. So this is great. But also just a great get for a lot of your decks. You don't need any legendary sub-theme for this to be good in a lot of decks because you're always going to have a commander, right? And most of the time that's a creature. And if your creature ever wants to deal combat damage to a player and it's in black, Shizuo.
Yeah, it helps you out quite a bit. All right, next up at $6 is Day of Destiny. It's 3 and white for a legendary enchantment, and it just says legendary creatures you control get +2/+2.
An anthem for legendary creatures.
Yep, in Anthem, it's a little expensive at 4 mana, but it is just one that hasn't seen that much printing. And again, in Commander, it's a card that you like in general.
The next one is, I didn't realize this card was $6.
Me neither, and it's an uncommon at that.
Yeah, I played it's an uncommon, holy crap. I played in my Shadowborn Apostles deck. It's Bantu's Monument, 3 mana for a legendary artifact. Black creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it reduces the cost of your black creatures, and then any creature you cast will activate that second ability or trigger that second ability, which is kind of like a Zulaport Cutthroat style.
Yeah.
Ping your opponents, drain them.
Drain them. It's also
they lose 1 each, and you only gain 1 total. So it's not the same as
it's not like an extort.
Yeah.
It is a legendary artifact too, so it does trigger off of both. It's good for both the commander options here.
Yep.
The next card is Captain Lannery Storm, about $5.70. It's a 2 and a red hasty creature. When it attacks, you create a colorless treasure artifact token. Woohoo! And then whenever you sack a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So there could be sequences where you have Dijada out, you're making 3 treasures. All out of nowhere, you cast Lannery Storm, she attacks, and you can sack all those treasures. Actually, you can sack them before she attacks and cast something with it, and then give her +3/+0, get a bunch of damage in.
Yeah, it has incidental synergy with Dijada's treasure creating ability. Lannery Storm often is just kind of a ramp card because if you have free attacks for a couple of turns, you just get to start making treasure and saving them up.
Yep.
I didn't realize that was $5.70 before, but it makes sense. It's
also, it's very good with Dijada because it has haste.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great.
So blam, play it. Dijada pluses it. Lifelink, Indestructible, Vigilance, Haste gives you a treasure.
Yep, and now can block 4 too.
Yep.
Yeah, of those 4 cards so far, 3 of them are pretty highly played in Commander, I'd say. Not so much Day of Destiny, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last card that was over $5, another card that you see all the time in Commander, very much a staple, is a land called Dragon Skull Summit.
Yep.
So this is a land that taps for black or red, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control either a swamp or a mountain.
Uh-huh.
Very good lands. All of these check lands are really good in Commander. So so far, I really like the reprints in this deck. Only Day of Destiny feels like it's kind of not properly priced, and probably just because of rarity. The rest are all priced what they're priced because people play them.
Yep. Now, a bunch of reprints between $2 and $5.
We won't read all of these.
A little bit more quickly. Reliquary Tower. I didn't realize this has gone up there. It's like $4 now.
$4.35.
Yeah. Shivan Gorge. Here's a legendary land. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you can pay 2 and red to tap it to deal 1 damage to each of your opponents.
$3.70. I'm just going to go through these without saying all their prices, but in the $3 range, we have Audric Lunarch Marshal, Oketra's Monument, Ashling the Pilgrim. Those are all pretty good cards you see around. The next group is around between $2.50 and $2. Mm-hmm. Battlefield Forge, Miko Koro, Center of the Sea. There's another legendary land.
Yep.
Knight's Whisper.
Whisper.
I play the hell out of this card. It's like every deck with black, I'm playing Knight's Whisper.
It's so good and efficient. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. It's really good. The next grouping is between $2 and $2.25, and it is Honor Worn Shaku.
Love that card. Great in this deck.
Generous Gift, very much a Commander staple. Traxos, Scourge of Krug. And then Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin, one of Post Malone's favorite cards.
Yeah, he's just a little guy running around.
So there's 17 total cards, $2 and above, counting the $5 cards.
Yeah.
A lot of value and a lot of cards that I really like seeing. I think so far this deck looks really cool.
I play Honor Worn Shaku in my Magda deck. Knight's Whisper, obviously playing every deck with black. And you got a bunch of lands here.
Yeah.
Reliquary Tower, Shivan Gorge, Battlefield Forge, as well as Dragon Skull Summit. So
I wish that every Commander Precon they made, there was 5 lands or 4 lands
that were
$2 or more. Just keep getting lands in there because it is hard to have good mana bases. It's usually one of the more expensive things to do. So I like that a lot of the reprint value tends to be in lands for this deck.
Yeah, and it sucks to wait for standard sets because they have to make sure it's balanced for standards. So Commander Precon seems like a really good place to sort of slot those in. Just some nice free value.
So we're pretty happy about the reprint value. This deck's looking really cool so far. Jimmy, what do you think are the best cards in the deck as far as when you're playing the deck? What are the most powerful things?
Totally. So there are a few cards here. 3 of them are reprints, and one of them is a brand new card. We're not going to talk about the new cards, by the way, in this episode, but we will mention one of them here. So I think Garna the Bloodflame is just one of the best cards in the deck. It's a huge combo piece that I obviously know a lot about now.
Very good card in general.
Yeah, so it's 3 black and a red for a legendary creature. 3/3 flash. When Garna enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. And then other creatures you control have haste. Just why not give her another crazy ability?
Yep.
So, you're going to minus Dijada, and then you're going to be able to flash in Garna and get those cards back.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah. put their
from anywhere.
From anywhere is
from
the
milling,
key.
if they die. It's also great board wipe protection as well. So it just has a lot of flexibility, but the fact that it synergizes so well with Dijada is why I think it's one of the better cards in the deck.
Yeah, that seems awesome. Like, hey, negative Dijada, make 4 treasure, play Garna, get those cards anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next 2 cards are both legendary sorceries. You saw these from the original Dominaria set that came out, what was it, a few years now, a couple years back?
3 years ago?
And this is Primeval's Glorious Rebirth and Urza's Ruinous Blast. So both of these you can only cast if you have a legendary permanent, a creature, or a planeswalker. By the way, that's your commander.
Yep. And there's a Legendary Matters deck, you're going to have one.
Yeah. So Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is 5 white and a black. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Again, you're filling up your graveyard. And then Urza's Ruinous Blast is exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So a one-sided board wipe there. Very, very powerful. Both these cards, I think, end the game typically if you're able to resolve them and have a commanding position afterwards.
All right, what's the new card that we're going to talk about? Yeah, like Jimmy said, we're not talking about all the new cards in this deck in this episode. We will probably talk about them in some of the set reviews.
Yeah, totally.
But one of them you think is one of the best cards in this deck, which...
This card is awesome.
Okay, let's read it.
Kadric Soulkindler, 2 a red and a white for a 4/3 legendary dwarf wizard. The legend rule doesn't apply to tokens you control.
Oh.
Okay. Whenever another non-token legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 generic mana. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
It's permanent, too.
Yeah, so lands, that are the artifacts we were just talking about, but really it's creatures that you're going to want to do with this. Miram, we've seen, has been one of the best Dragon Commanders ever because it allows you to create copies of legendary creatures and make them non-legendary. Now, Miram's copies do stick around, but Kadric is something that does this for every legendary permanent. It gives them haste, you can attack with them, and then they get sacked.
So you kind of sneak attack that token a little bit.
Yeah, but you get to get the attack trigger instantly.
Yeah, and you get to get the ETB triggers. You get to get, with Garner or something, I'm sure there's crazy stuff you can do. So, yeah, that seems very, very powerful and
very cool card, yeah.
Probably a cool deck to build all on its own.
Yeah, totally. Red, white, legendary matters.
You get...
I can still...
Boros Legendary Matters or Lorehold Legendary. I was trying to think of the name Lorehold.
Loros. Yeah.
Borehold.
Borehold, that's better. I like Borehold.
All right, well, we're about to get into the exciting part of this exercise every time, which is Jimmy has chosen 10 cards to add to this deck to get it up to fighting speed as fast as possible for under $30, and then he's going to tell us what 10 cards to take out of the deck to make room for the other 10. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, we got to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors.
Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp.
All right, since Audric Master Tactician is attacking, I get to choose how you block. So let's maybe put that there, and you could double block there. Oh, I'm sorry, my brain is struggling.
If I may, let me give you a Master Tactician's advice.
Yes, please.
Battles aren't won on the field, they're won in the mind. And if you want the strategic advantage of a toned and trained thought sponge, I recommend BetterHelp Online Therapy. Puzzles and brain teasers are great intellectual exercises, but the emotional side is just as important, soldier. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat-only sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours.
Hey, thanks for the advice. Now, what about this combat?
No blocks, man. He's dead on board.
All right. Duh.
Stupid talking card.
Command Zone listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/commandzone. That's BETTERHELP.com/commandzone.
And I pass the turn.
Ugh, my hand is full of gas. It's just so expensive.
Oh, I know. Gas is super expensive these days.
My mana curve's pretty low. I'm just...
Tired of overpaying at the pump? Trust me, I know how you feel.
Do you?
Luckily, there's a great way to get cash back whenever you pay for gas, groceries, or dining out, and that's Upside. Just this morning, I was refilling the tank, so I booted up the app, claimed an offer, and checked in at the gas station. Then Upside gave me money for the gas I was already buying.
That is pretty cool, but as far as the game...
Oh, with Upside, there are no games. It's as good as it sounds, and super easy to use. Plus, I'm getting way more cash back than I ever did from credit card rewards or loyalty programs. In fact, I got enough to play some drafts at my LGS. To get started, just download the free Upside app, use our promo code COMMAND, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more.
Nice. So, can I take my turn now?
Sure.
I pass.
Download the free Upside app and use promo code COMMAND to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code COMMAND.
Hey it's me, Imoen. You need a lock cracked or a pocket picked? I'm your gal. But even a master like me shouldn't rest on her laurels, so I've been listening to Faerun's top podcast on looting and pilfering, all with my RAYCON wireless earbuds. Petty theft is one thing, but venturing into the Undercity is no joke. That's why I took the initiative and got these snazzy new RAYCONs. Now I can stay comfy and stylish while listening to podcasts that keep me sharp. And thanks to RAYCON's awareness mode, I can always hear my surroundings. Ha! Not today, skeletons! With RAYCONs, I get the same audio quality as other premium brands at just half the price. That's a steal, and trust me, I'd know. Plus, my earbuds never fall out, and the battery gets me through a whole day of roguish delights. That's why I'm one of the 49,000 people who have written them a 5-star review. We don't have internet though, so I just slip mine in people's pockets. And take my finder's fee in return. Hey, RAYCONs may come cheap, but a hot tip like this will cost you.
Check out RAYCON's wireless earbuds. My guess is that you're going to want to leave them a 5-star review too. Go to buyraycon.com/command today to get 15% off your RAYCON order. That's buyraycon.com/command to score 15% off. Again, buyraycon.com/command.
All right, we are back talking about the Legends Legacy Budget Precon Upgrade Guide. And
Don't need those pages. We're done with that part.
yeah, we're done with those parts.
On to the fun part.
We're going to be adding 10 cards in, taking 10 cards out. So evaluation of the deck out of the box, I think it's actually pretty well built. You look at all of the ramp and all this stuff, it's clearly got a lot of ways to make things work. Now,
was there any categories or anything you looked at when you kind of broke down the deck that you said, okay, this is where I'm going to focus the energies. This is, what the deck needs to kind of bring it up to the next level.
So Planeswalkers in general, they're pretty fragile if people can get around them, and it really would suck to have to play your commander out multiple times because it's not a creature. Someone can just straight attack it. So I was thinking, okay, we need some good Planeswalker synergies, and also because we're using Dijada, I wanted to add a little bit more graveyard help in there, because right now, if you're playing the deck, there's only a couple of cards that really affect your graveyard, and I think that's a whole area where, again, you're in Mardu. You don't have access to a lot of powerful stuff in green and blue, so having your graveyard be a part of your deck is going to help you get that edge as well, I think, against other decks.
That makes sense. So a little more survivability and support for Dijada and ways to sort of take advantage of that minus ability, putting things in your graveyard.
Yeah, totally.
Sweet.
And you're going to have, and if you play this deck right, your graveyard will be filled to the brink with cool stuff, so you're going to want to be able to interact with it.
Yeah, as much as we talked about that plus ability, it's the middle ability, the -3, that really is the most powerful to me. Yeah. And when playing against the deck, obviously, that became apparent because
you can just sequence
the choice
some
of
stuff.
just making a lot of mana, we know is very powerful, and that's in fact often what you want to do is just blind. I don't care what these cards are. I'm making for treasure.
Yeah.
And then the fact that that can become card draw if you ever sort of run low on gas is cool too.
Yeah, and the thing too about it is that Planeswalkers, right, we always judge them. Can they do something to help protect themselves? And in this case, the minus ability on Dijada does allow that if you cast something from the treasures. Yeah. So it's not putting a token into play, but you are able to potentially use that mana for something else. And recasting it later on, you're going to be very happy you're getting some treasures back. All right. Okay. So all right. By the way, our budget total is about $30.
You were well below that this time. You were below $25.
I was. And we're going to talk about a couple of honorable mentions that maybe you could slot in yourself, should you have the cards or want to just go a little bit above.
Okay.
So the first category is called Planeswalker Help. Help. I need somebody.
Not just anybody.
Yeah, not just anybody. We need Lae'zel, Vlaakith's champion. This is 2 in the white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Gith Warrior. If you would put one or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control or yourself, put that many plus one of those, each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead.
So it's
now
sort
of 3.
Yeah.
Plus 2.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that also gets you to your ultimate way faster. You go 5 to 8 to 11 in that case. But this is just great. It's a 3-mana 3/3 on its own. You'd be very happy to play this before Dijada comes down. You'd be happy to draw this. It just helps out.
A legendary creature can be the blocker.
Yep.
That's nice.
Yep. And that card's about 50 cents, by the way. It also says choose a background on it, but that is if it's your commander.
All right, the next card you have written down here is one of the more expensive ones on your list. It's $6.
It's so cool, though. I had to put it in.
Yeah, it's Luxior.
Giada's
Gift. This is from Strixhaven. New Capenna. It's from New Capenna. Yep.
Yeah.
1 mana for a legendary equipment. It says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it.
Oh.
Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. It says loyalty abilities can still be activated.
Ooh.
It has equip planeswalker for 1 or equip non-planeswalker for 3. So what this does is you equip it to Dijada, and now Dijada cannot be attacked because it is not a planeswalker anymore.
It's also a 7/7.
It's a 7/7.
You activate it, yeah, +2.
Depending on how many counters are on it, it could be very large, and it's just harder to kill at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, traditional removal spells will affect it, but if you're looking at the board and you're like, poopy, it looks like everyone's trying to just attack this creature, you can turn it into a planeswalker. The equip cost just being 1. That's a great way to protect it as it gets up to ulti ability as well.
Yeah, that's great. And it's a legendary artifact for 1, so it definitely has synergies anyway with the rest of the deck.
Yep. This next one I love a lot. I'm surprised it hasn't
This
seen
one
much
is from
play.
Strixhaven.
It is, yeah. It's Semester's End.
It's a very good card.
I feel like Dijada would not care much about the end of the semester, but here we are. 3 in the white instant, exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next end step, return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker.
So this is kind of a budget to Fairies protection, right?
Yeah, totally. And it actually helps out your Dijada quite a bit because it gives her a +1 counter or another planeswalker counter when she comes in. And it can also just save all your creatures. Now, it doesn't save your permanents and all that stuff, but this is still pretty good. You're going to have a lot of high impact creatures, and people are going to want to try and kill them.
I think this is a very good card in a Planeswalker deck, a Planeswalker-led deck that has white. Because normally this doesn't help you on defense too much because they attack you, and you're like, the big part of Teferi's protection is that you have protection from everything and all your stuff phases away so it can't be destroyed. But you also can't be hit, right?
Yeah, totally.
Whereas if they're attacking you in your Semester's End, well, your creatures and stuff go away, but you still take a bunch of damage. But if you have a Planeswalker out, a lot of times they're attacking that Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Which means, exile that thing, it comes back, but there's no attack coming at you, so you don't then take the damage. So, yeah, seems great, because you could even play this, have Dijada -3, make the 4 treasures, and if she is attacked, you can always have that mana up to save her. And if she's not, that's sweet, because now I'm untapping with 4 extra treasure, and I'm about to make 4 more and have a really big turn.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about the 4 treasures Dijada can cast this spell.
Yeah.
Actually, looking at the cards so far, they can cast Lae'zel with 3, you can cast Luxior and equip it with 2, so it all synergizes just the turn you play Dijada. You can even pull this, except for Semester's End, you have to have this in hand.
Semester's End, less than $1, 90 cents, so that's a really good one.
And not legendary.
Yeah. Well, it's an instant.
It could be a legendary, so we have seen legendary sorcerers.
Okay, sure.
Now, the next category is just graveyard synergy, so just a little bit more help with that graveyard part of it. This first one is Olivia, Crimson Bride. So 4 black and a red, 3/4 legendary creature, vampire noble with flying and haste. When Olivia attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire. Exile this creature.
So it stays around until Olivia goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Has haste. So this is super powerful, and the second most expensive card on your list at $5.75.
Yeah, it's obviously hugely impactful. Again, you can play this turn after you play Dijada. It could be late game, just win the game as a result, just because someone doesn't expect you to hit them with both Olivia and whatever is that other massive creature that's coming out. So it's got a lot of swing potential.
Yeah, we've talked about haste being an underrated mechanic, and I think using it in that way, holding Olivia till near the end of the game, when like a board wipe happens, because that's a lot of ways how decks sort of stabilize. They go, if I just play this board wipe, nobody will have anything. That'll buy me the time to get back in this. And a lot of times they're counting on the fact that you're going to be slow to recover. You're going to play creatures, have to wait and then attack your next turn. And going like, Olivia, regrow or resurrect the most powerful thing out of my graveyard and attack you with Olivia, and that thing can be like the final KO punch. So really, like, I've died to Olivia many times. Can you tell?
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
It's the kind of card that gets a control deck that gets people like me,
Works really good with like Garna too, if you're able to Garna out Olivia and then boom, it's my turn. I'm swinging, I'm bringing another thing out. Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Because I could totally see someone trying to kill Olivia instantly. So, but lots of synergies there.
The next card is one of my favorites. I play this card quite a lot.
I cannot believe it's so cheap.
It's Savine's Reclamation. It's 2 and a white for sorcery. It says return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then if this spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy the spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. It has flashback for 4 and a white. So you cast it the first time, get 1 3 CMC or less thing out onto the battlefield. And then it's sitting in your graveyard. Later you cast it for 5 and get 2 3 CMC, 3 mana value or less things
Yeah.
onto the battlefield. I often use this for lands when you have fetch lands and things like that. But in a deck like this, if you have your Luxior got killed or, your Lae'zel or something like that, this is going to be able to bring them back.
Even lots of stuff that can come back with this.
It's also really good if Dijada hits it off the negative because you're just like, cool, make a treasure, put that into my graveyard, and now I can use it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Next up is Junji, the Midnight Sky. Got to put one of these legendary dragons in. I love this series. It's 3 black for a 5/5 legendary dragon spirit with flying and menace, Menace. When Junji dies, choose one. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Or put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control and you lose 2 life. So this is great to just play, have it die at some point. You're getting something from someone else's graveyard, probably your own because you're knowing what you're putting in there. But again, it's just a 5/5 flying menace. You're looking to put, 5/5, imagine this, Dijada, 5/5 flying menace, vigilance, lifelink, indestructible. Whew. That's a keyword soup right there.
Yeah, seems great. That was about $450.
Yeah, so that's the third most expensive card. All right, now we have a couple of cards that just care about legendary stuff because there's a lot of legendary things going on. And this card, I think, is just probably one of the better cards in the deck.
And it is legendary itself. It's Yoshimaru, Ever Faithful, as a good boy. A 1 white mana for a 1/1 legendary creature dog. Whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Yoshimaru, Ever Faithful. Does have partner, won't matter because it's in the deck. Yeah, this is just the type of card you play it on turn 1, and it's a 5/5 or a 6/6 before you can blink.
Yeah, it's the perfect card to +2 Dijada with. You're playing legendary permanents like lands, artifacts. All of that is going to give it a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, I think the deck really, really wants to play a creature before it plays Dijada. So you need to hit at least one legendary creature that's either 1, 2, or 3 CMC. And this is the best because you can always fit this in around your ramp. You can find 1 mana somewhere. 3 might be hard, just the way sort of ramp tends to roll out. You play a 2-drop. If you want to play more ramp, it might be hard to cast that 3-drop before Dijada. 1 mana, you can always fit it in.
Yeah, and Yoshimaru also will trigger when Dijada enters the battlefield, I believe, because it's a legendary permanent.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to instantly get a +1/+1 counter there. All right. The other Legendary Matters card is Thalia's Lancers. I really like this card. 3 white for a 4/4 first strike. It's just a regular creature, but when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So super value engine here. You could be just
legendary tutor
to just get a land if you really want to. But there's obviously legendary cards like we talked about the sorceries earlier, as well as the artifacts. So lots of things to grab.
Yeah, I think it's really good because you already have 5 mana when you cast Thalia's Lancer, so you may or may not need a land. But getting the
best card
Urza's Ruinous Blast or something could be like, okay, go find the game-winning card here.
Yeah.
That's only a 30-cent card, Thalia's Lancers, and I don't think we said, but Yoshimaru is $1.80, so both very affordable.
All right, the last 2 cards here, I just called them Fun to Find or Fun to Play because they're just cool cards.
And they're both legendary.
Yep.
Gaunty, Lord of Luxury, a very powerful card. 2 black for a 2/3 Aetherborn Rogue that's legendary, has Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, and then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. You may look at and cast that card, the one you exiled, as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any type to cast that spell. So
target the green player, target the blue player, get something off of them. And you also just have a nice 2/3 Death Touch. Great blocker for Dijada, just saying.
Yeah, you make it indestructible, lifelink, vigilance, gain 2. It's really hard to swing into.
Yeah. And
Great.
we have ways to bring this back. So I've seen games won off the back of Gaunty just being cast or reanimated or whatever a few times.
It's draw the best card off your opponent's top 4 cards.
Yeah. It's a great balancing act, too, because, again, you're in Mardu. You're losing some of the advantages that green and blue have. So why not just take them off their deck instead?
And that card is about 10 cents, Gaunty. I can't believe it's only 10 cents.
Yeah, I think he's been printed a bunch, and, but he's...
I feel like I see that card all the time, though.
I think it's a total Commander staple, yeah. And the last card here is Varagoth Blood Sky Sire. It's 2 in the black for a 2/3 Legendary Demon Rogue with Death Touch, and it has Boast. So for 1 in the black, target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it. And you can only activate Boast if this creature attacked this turn, and only once each turn. So this is great with Dijada. You can swing with this on the turn you want to play. You can swing with this before you play her and put a legendary card on top, or you can just do it to just tutor at some point and draw that card in some other way.
Yeah, the problem with Varagoth often is someone will block it and even trade because they don't want you to get the
card
tutor
yeah.
effect like over
Again,
and over.
Yeah.
But because of Dijada giving it indestructible, you can just swing with impunity, and now you got free demonic tutors.
Well, tutors to the top of the library, but still pretty darn good.
Vampiric tutors.
Yeah, every single turn should you want to with Varigroth. It's going to be hard to block that 2/3 because it's got indestructible.
It's a $2 card, so also very inexpensive. So we've totaled it up, Jimmy, and you're at $24.
Yeah, pretty
under
good.
budget.
Super under budget. And I think it's because the deck itself is just filled with a lot of already good stuff. I didn't need to really search that hard to like, we needed some heavy hitters in here to make this better. So I was just able to find cards that I think really helped buff up all of the different aspects of the deck. And, to me, I think this would make the deck a lot better and make it more fun to play too.
I'm always surprised by how just the 10 cards we talk about, just a 10 card difference, it makes a big difference in how powerful the deck is. Not that the precons aren't good out of the box, but 10 cards bumps it up like a level or two. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of the honorable mentions. The cards maybe because of price sometimes. There's a card that's kind of close, but because of price you left it out. Or just in general, they were close to making it in, but we only allow you to add 10. So
yeah, and I said we wouldn't be affecting the mana bases, so 4 of the cards I will be talking about are lands. The first one, though, is just Shieldred, Whispering One. This is a $12 card, but it's nuts, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they sacrifice a creature. So it's totally on theme with the graveyard stuff that's going on. And hey, we're on Dominaria United. We know the Phyrexians are here. There's a lot of completion happening, so I figured it'd be a nice thematic ad as well.
pretty brutal if you Dijada minus and then turn 5 Shieldred.
Yeah, because you have the treasures.
Yeah.
So
and you minused.
It could be even turn
you put things
4,
in there that Shieldred's going to get out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then the last of them are just legendary lands. So 3 of these are from Kamigawa. Yeah. Igonjo, Sea of the Empire, Sokenzan, Crucible of Defiance, and Takanuma, Abandoned Mire. Those are the Mardu color lands.
The channel lands?
All of them are like 450, 275. So I didn't put them in because we weren't affecting the mana base, but these are all, if you have them, they're incredible. They're legendary lands, and they all have channel. So you can pay a certain amount of mana, and they have an effect that's sort of commensurate with the color that they're in. And it costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control.
Most decks, that's 1, right? But this deck, very often you're going to have multiple legendary creatures because that's the something in the deck.
Yeah.
Really good with Savine's Reclamation, too, if you channel them.
Ooh, and then bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all those cards do something different. Takanuma is probably the most thematic because it allows you to get stuff back from your graveyard. But pretty good stuff overall. If you happen to just be playing Neon Dynasty, you might have a couple of these lying around. Throw them in the deck.
Especially the white and the red ones aren't seeing as much play. Like obviously, the green and the blue ones.
The white one's actually seeing a lot, I think, in like standard or constructive formats. So it actually makes it more expensive than the red one.
Interesting.
And then the last land is Untitled, the Cloud Keeper. It's just a land that comes into play tapped, a legendary land, but it says tap, pay 2 life, add 2 mana to your mana pool, spend this mana only to play legendary spells. So Ancient Tomb for your deck.
I heard Ancient Tombs are good.
Yeah.
I heard you would like them. I like them as well.
So I didn't put those in, but again, you can just take out some basic land slots for those or some of the tap lands if you think they're a little too clunky, and blam, your deck is now going from good to, pretty nice.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Those were honorable mentions, remember. So going back to the 10 cards that you officially for $24 told us to add, we of course have to make room for those cards, because you can't have a 110 card commander deck.
What?
So, so in this last section, we always talk about our recommendations for which cards specifically to take out, which ones we think come in the pre-con but maybe aren't as optimized or as good as the cards we're adding. So
totally.
What's the first card, Jimmy?
First one is Circle of Loyalty. It's 4 white for a legendary artifact, and it costs 1 less for each knight you control. So that's like, wait, what?
This is a legendary deck, not a knight deck.
Not a knight deck, yeah. It gives your creatures +1/+1, and then whenever you cast a legendary spell, you make a white creature token with Vigilance. But
2/2.
That's after you cast the 6 mana artifact.
Right.
And then you can also pay 3 and a white to tap it to make a 2/2 white knight. This is just, I think, too clunky and slow. It's not really an amazing effect in the deck.
Yeah, my cards that are going to trigger off my other cards being cast, I want those to be cheap.
Yeah, totally.
Because I either want to play them early and then get full value off everything I play for the rest of the game, or I want to have a turn later where I go play this, immediately play the thing that triggers it.
Yeah.
Hard to do if it's 6 mana. Yeah.
When I saw this card, it's the kind of card where I go, if I drew this in the game, I know I just would never probably play it.
Yeah, it's going to sit in your hand the whole time.
Yeah. The next up is Tenza, Godo's Maul, which is an equipment. It's legendary, it's 3 mana, and it gives an equipped creature +3/+3 if it's legendary, and if it's red, it has trample, and its equip costs 1. I'm just not a big fan of equipment. I think that you'd much rather be playing a creature than an equipment in this game to protect your commander.
It is legendary, but in general, this is not an equipment deck. You're not going to get any additional synergy off of it.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, again, Luxior compared to Tenza. Man, Luxior just seems way better. Or just any creature compared to Tensa.
I'm pretty sure Goto traded this Maul away himself for that Helm of the Host anyway.
Yeah, he's not gonna lie, I need a helmet.
He's like, yeah, that thing's not named after me anymore.
Next card is Sword of the Chosen. Do you think this is an equipment, Josh? It's not. It's an awkward 2-mana artifact that you can tap it to give a legendary creature +2/+2 until end of turn. Temporary, only one-time use. Again, I would just much rather have a graveyard synergy, a Savine's Reclamation. This sort of stuff is cute, and it says legend on it, and that's sometimes I think how a lot of precons go, is they're like, all right, find legendary cards.
That are reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah, you can justify this in some number of ways, but your commander, again, is a Planeswalker.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Inherently, an equipment is not great when you have a Planeswalker as commander. Not that you won't have creatures that you play, but you're not guaranteed to have one like other decks that have a creature in the command zone.
Yeah, totally.
So both of this and the Goto's Maul just seem like, there'll be some amount of time where you don't have a target for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Why bother?
Yep.
Hedron Archive is the next card I chose to cut. I used to be really big on this card, but I think 4 mana for a 2-mana rock isn't that great, and you can sacrifice to draw some cards. The 4-drop slot is already pretty crowded in this deck, so that was a good reason to cut that.
Yep. This next card, they put in every precon that has white, and I know why they do it.
It's funny. It's true. It's very true.
Because precons, I'm sure when they playtest them, the games go very, very long unless you have some finishers in there that are just give inevitability to the game.
Yeah.
And this card, Zatalpa Primal Dawn, they always tend to put it in there because it's not an expensive card, but it will end a game, so that if you're ever playing in a precon environment, whoever casts Zatalpa, that's like, okay, the game has to end pretty soon because the Zatalpa will end it.
For 8 each turn, and it's indestructible, and it's flying, and it's got all these other cool keywords.
But in a real game of Commander, it's way too slow. By the time you cast it, the game's almost over already.
Yeah.
And you're likely to just be like, okay, pay 8 mana for this thing, and they're like, cool. Does nothing. Like,
I'm going to kill you this turn, I'm going to path it, I'm going to bounce it. There's a lot of things that could happen to Zatalpa.
Yep.
So that's why we cut it.
And regular Commander decks have a lot more answers for indestructible threats just because they tend to play Exile or Bounce.
Yep. And then moving onwards again, reducing the 4-drop slot, we have Tajik, Blade of the Legion. It's a 4-mana 2/2. It's indestructible and it has Battalion, so it has to attack with 2 other creatures. It gets +5/+5 until end of turn. Again, you would hate to have this out and then Dijada plus it. It's like, oh, cool, it's a 2/2 already.
Giving indestructible that, I want my creature to have other abilities and then get indestructible on top of it so I get full value. Right?
Yeah, so this seems a little repetitive. It's at the same mana cost as Dijada, so I just don't see myself wanting to ever cast this in this deck.
It's just a weird thing, too, that it wants to attack with at least 3 other creatures. That's not something your deck's really trying to do. So
yeah. This next one might be a bit of a controversial cut. It is Kari Zev, Skyship Raider. It's a cheaper creature, 1 in red for a 1/3 with First Strike Menace. It's legendary. When it attacks, you make the original Ragavan, which is the 2/1 tapped.
The fair Ragavan.
But that Ragavan doesn't stick around, so it's not like it's going to stick and be a blocker. And
you have to attack to get these things.
You have to attack to get it. It's a 1/3. I just, again, think that you'd much rather have some of the other cards we've added, like Veragroth, or any of the other ones.
Yoshimaru.
Yeah, Yoshimaru takes the place.
So much better than Kari Zev,
back to the 4-mana slot. Josu Ves, Lich Knight, 2 black for a multi-kicker 4/5. Kicker 4/5 legendary zombie knight. When it gets kicked for 6 mana extra, so a 10 mana kick, you make 8 2/2 black zombie menace creature tokens with menace.
It reads so good, but you need 10 mana to do that. Just cast Rise of the Dark Realms or something.
Yeah, otherwise it's a 4-mana 4/5 with menace. And again, 4 mana slots, we're reserving that for Dijada. We want to be moving a little bit lower in the curve, I think, if possible. Next up is Ashling the Pilgrim. I don't know why this card's in this deck outside of its legendary and cheap to cast. It's 1 in red for this legendary creature elemental shaman. I'm not even going to read it. You basically pay mana to put 1/1 counters on it, and then if it's the 3rd time that you've resolved this ability this turn, so 6 mana total, you remove all the counters, and it deals that much damage to each creature and each player.
I think it's just a board wipe that is a legendary permanent.
Right.
So it's a legendary board wipe, and in general, board wipes are good in Planeswalker decks, so that's probably what they were thinking.
It might be. I just don't like it.
You got to put at least like 10 or 12 mana into it before it really board wipes.
Yeah, because what you're trying to do is, I activate it once this turn, once the other turn, eventually gets up to like being a 7 mana or a 7/7 or whatever, and then you activate it 3 times, deals 9 damage to everything.
It's just too slow, too much mana invested.
Yeah, I would rather just put Blasphemous Act in its stead if you had a choice there.
All right.
And the last card is Day of Destiny. We talked about this earlier, being one of the more expensive reprints. Again, 4 mana, legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. We don't need it. The deck's already got tons of powerful stuff. Dijada's making them indestructible. This is just, I think, just gravy on top. And I don't think this is going to help you win the game in a way that is as impactful as just playing Savine's Reclamation twice.
I also think the dream of having like 4+ legendary creatures out is not likely to ever happen. So
there's also Arvad the Cursed in the deck, which gives +2/+2 already, so it's a redundant effect.
I mean, how often are you going to have enough creatures that this is not just better than another 4-drop creature that you could find off of, Dijada or actually activate.
Gaunty.
Yeah, activate Dijada's plus ability. You can't target Day of Destiny with that, right? So I think for the most part, Day of Destiny can go in, any legendary creature can go in, and it's just going to be better.
Yep.
All right, those were the 10 cards to take out of the deck. Jimmy, let's talk about how this deck plays.
So it doesn't have traditional green ramp. I think the deck is super reliant on putting out early game mana rocks or those monuments to get the commander out on time. And then from there, the possibilities are awesome. You got so many choices. If you have a creature out, you can make it a great blocker, or you can just -4 and just get a bunch of cards from it as well. Or you can take none and then cast something from your hand. And your creature quality, I think, in general is going to be higher than everyone else's. Just focus on beating down your opponents one at a time. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to pull off an ultimate.
Yeah, non-green decks always have trouble with ramp. I think Dijada does help you, though. Even if you get her out on 4, she can give you a rebate at least the next turn if you want to protect her. So that's pretty good. Giving you a turn 5 that's really explosive, maybe up to 9 mana or so, maybe 10. I want to say the monuments don't reduce the cost of Dijada because she's not a creature.
Yeah, a bit of a bummer there.
Yeah.
And it's only one that they could have reduced it by anyway.
Yeah, but I think this deck is quite powerful just because the minus ability has the staples, the pillars of the format, right?
Right.
On one side, it's ramp. On one side, it's card draw. If your commander is doing those things and giving you the option between those two things, you always have the power to do things and you have the the things to do. And so whichever side of that equation you need, Dijada can kind of give you that in the moment.
Yeah, and with that power and gas comes responsibility. So.
All right, very cool. Thank you, Jimmy, for helping us break down and helping everybody out there upgrade.
You love me a Legendary Matters deck.
Yeah, I think this is quite good out of the box and will be made way better with these small upgrades. And then the super, optimized version of this deck is going to be not a CEDH powerful deck, but very strong and quite fun to play. So I think this, we talked a little bit in the deck reveal video about the 5-color deck and how I think it's not great for new players to buy that specific deck just because of the way 5-color cards can't go in a lot of decks. And it's hard to...
It's slower,
hard to upgrade the mana base. Like, it's not great for new players. It's more for enfranchised players. But this deck, I think, is actually going to be decent for newer players. Planeswalkers create a lot of decision trees, which I think is a little bit of downside if you're super new, but at the same time, it is powerful. It's not super complicated, and these are a lot of cards in here that can probably go in other places too.
Yeah, and I guarantee you minus Dijada a couple of times, you're gonna get multiple people going, wait, what?
Yeah, wait, what?
That's
you
nuts.
Can do that?
Holy crap. And then you did, oh my gosh. So the sequencing, I think, is gonna be really fun for more experienced players too.
And also, there's a lot of legendary creatures in the deck, so if you are new to Commander, it can give you a lot of options for decks you can build off of the legendary, because each legendary creature that comes in the deck can be its own
commander.
Deck.
Yeah, there's like a new Blade Wing that's in there and stuff. There's lots of really interesting stuff that you should definitely check out.
Plus, you get $110 worth of value out of the box, which is really good.
Yeah.
All right, to the listeners, what do you think of the Legends Legacy Precon? Or is there any cards we missed or any cards we suggested to take out or add that you particularly disagree with? We would love to hear from you in the comments over Twitter, social media, whatever.
Find us. And also go online to get this Precon and get the upgrade cards, because if this interests you, and I love your comment, it's true, buy this Precon, you get like 70 new, not 70, you get a bunch of new commander choices as well. Yeah, so head on out to channelfireball.com/command. That's where you'll find the Channel Fireball Marketplace. Great prices on sealed product and all that and more. And the singles you're going to need to upgrade this deck and any Precon, and you're supporting local game stores around the country. That's what matters. You're getting great business from them as well as great prices and great deals.
Yeah, love Channel Fireball Marketplace because everything on there is in LGS.
Yeah.
It's been vetted by Channel Fireball, so you know that your sealed product in particular, you're getting very good prices because they get stuff through the distributor, through the WPN network.
Yep.
And then, of course, once you get those cards, you're going to want to sleeve them up, keep them in really good condition. Ultra Pro makes the products that Jimmy and I trust our own collections to. They are the ones that will protect you all of your game pieces with their Eclipse sleeves, their Satin Tower or Mythic Collection deck boxes. These are just stuff. I have backpacks full of my decks in Satin Towers or Mythic Collection stuff because I want my decks to remain safe, and that's the best way to do it. ultrapro.com/command. That's the affiliate link to use when you go to their online store. And because LGSs and things like that sort of pick and choose which Ultra Pro products they're going to carry.
Right.
And also, like, over time, they sort of sell out, and then they buy the new stuff, not necessarily restocking some of the older things. So if you're looking for stuff from the past, maybe there was a cool binder or cool artwork or another set, or like I always talk about the guild theme sleeves.
Yeah, totally.
You know, because often you're just building a red-white deck, and you're like, it'd be cool if this deck was in Boros sleeves, but they can be hard to find at your local game store. Well, if you go to ultrapro.com/command, they often have a lot of that stuff still available, and often it's at a discount because it is a little bit older, and sometimes they're trying to move that product.
All right. Well, good job, Legends Legacy. You are creating a legacy through your legendary actions. I don't know. I'm just making it all up at this point.
All right. No end step today because these in the set review season, we just don't have enough cool stuff in our life to talk about.
We're also spending all our time writing set reviews.
We will have a lot more Dominaria United coverage coming up. We're going to talk about all the new legendary creatures. We're going to talk about the cards in the 99. There's a lot to cover. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Big thanks before we go to our awesome team here at the Command Zone. Damon Lenz, Ashlyn Rose, Arthur Meadowcroft, Craig Blanchett, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Patrick Nan, Jordan Pridgeon, Sam Waldo, Grav Galati, Truck Ty, JB Block, Evan Limburger, and Mitch Trafford.
Okay. And big thanks to Jeffrey Palmer. He does the living card animations that start our show. Occasionally live behind us here on set. You can find him on Twitter at livingcardsmtg. Oh, also congrats to Jeffrey. He finally got a preview card.
Oh, that's
for Dominaria United. Yeah, very excited for him.
Definitely make sure you go give him a follow. Okay, everybody.
I hope it's a bear.
Thanks for watching. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, right?
All right, we'll see you next time.
Peace.
You stole my piece.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.